everyone, it's Tammy, and I have done the Knitting 101, 201, 301, and I guess this means this one is the 401. So if you have any questions about what the essentials are, what yarn, how to choose yarn, or what you need to know about yarn, or loom knitting, check out the other 3 videos. This one is going to be stick knitting or knitting with needles. So this happens to be a size 8 needle, and I just had these, so this is what I'm using for this. This is what I've used to make my fingerless glove. Now this is by no means perfect. There's lots and lots and lots of mistakes in this, but you can see how there's different patterns throughout. It's kind of neat. It only has, those are total mess ups. It only has one hole in the top for your fingers and then a hole in the side for your thumb, but it's nice and warm and it's kind of cool and it stretches. And this was my first project, and I've had a lot of people ask me about knitting, so that's the only reason I'm doing this. I am a total beginner, and this is a beginner's perspective on knitting. So please watch some other videos as well. This will just kind of get you started and give you my perspective on what I know. And since some of you have asked, a lot of you have asked, I'm doing this for you guys. But please know I am not at all an expert. So what you need for this, and this is the kit that I purchased, and it tells you the pattern. And I'm not going to get into how to read the pattern right now. Maybe I'll do that in another video. I'm not sure yet. But you don't have to have a pattern in it, but it seems to work better for me. And this says that I need to cast on, and casting on is the term that's used to get started, because obviously you need something to get started with. And knitting is interweaving yarn into other yarn, and you need something to get started. So just so you know, because I didn't know these things, when you're knitting, you have 2 needles. One always has your knit stitches on it, and then the other one you're either adding stitches or you're using it to take away stitches. So your working hand, this is my right hand, actually is doing the work. This stick, or needle, I need to stop calling them sticks, but that's just what I do. The left hand needle only has your stitches that you've already completed or your cast on it, and you are working from this onto this one. So just so you know that, these are just like total basics. And then you also are going to need to know how to do a slip knot, and gosh, I don't know how to even explain it, but you guys probably, some of you probably already know how to do this, but so I'm just going to take 2 fingers and I'm going to put the yarn over the 2 fingers, and then I'm going to hold both of these, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to pick up the string that is still attached. So I have the small string, I'm going to call that my tail. I'm holding my tail and my working string. I'm going to pick up the working string, still holding on to these, and pull. So then I'm going to have my working string and my tail together, and I'm going to make a little knot. Now this knot will move. That's why it's called a slip knot. And watch, if I pull it, it pulls right out. And you can do a big one or a small one, and some people I know do it with their whole hand, but honestly, once you start doing it, it's so simple. You will just do it and you won't even know what you're doing. So again, it's 2 fingers. You just loop the yarn over, turn it around, so like you twist your wrist, grab the working yarn, pull it up through, let go of the working yarn, but keep hold of the tail, and then pull it. And then you can just do that. Now this particular, I'm going to go ahead and start with since I need to make my other glove, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this particular one calls for a long tail cast on. And I happen to like the long tail cast on. That seems to be my favorite cast on, and it seems to be the one I'm best at. So I'm going to show you that one. And to do a long tail, they suggest that you do an inch for every stitch that you need. So I have to cast on 36 stitches, and that's what this means right here. Cast on 36 stitches. STS is stitches. So that means I need about 36 inches of yarn for my long tail cast on. So what I do is I just pull it out for my arm, and I'm just going to do 2 of them, but just because I don't know how big that is, but I know that that will be enough. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put my slip knot here. So even though I'm holding my tail, it's a long tail, but it's still my tail, and I'm doing the same thing. So now I have my cast on, or my slip knot. And then you just put it on your needle, and then you take the working yarn and pull, and then that will make it like stick onto your needle. So now you have your first stitch. That's it. That's your first stitch. Woohoo! You've done it. So what was I going to say? There are some terms that are weird, and if I say something that I haven't mentioned what it is, ask, comment. I'll try to remember to tell you, because I didn't know what any of these meant. I am totally self-taught, just so you guys know. I've been watching YouTube videos, and there's a couple of videos that I really love, and there's 2 people that I'd love to mention. One is Good Knit Kisses. She's awesome. And she does a lot of looming too. And then the other one is, she also does Essential Fiber Arts. Look her up. Her name is Shandy. She's cute as a button, and she has a yarn store. I really want to be Shandy one day. She's amazing. But anyway, I also, when I have a ball of yarn like this, I like to throw it in a bag, because then it kind of helps stay secure, and I don't have to worry about it, and it's not flopping everywhere. But I do pull out some just so I have a little bit, and then I don't have to worry about it. And I have cats, so that's another reason why I like to do that. Now, another thing that you'll do when you're knitting is you'll see that and you can kind of see how hopefully you can see how this is kind of all dented up and already the color's knocked off of it up here. That's because this is the part that you work with the most. The rest of it just holds yarn. So the length doesn't matter. You still do the same exact thing. The length only matters for how many stitches it will hold. So this one needs to be 36 stitches, and let me see if I can remember this without watching a video myself to do it. So to do this cast on, you take the yarns and you pull them apart with your thumb and your index finger. So I'm just pulling them apart, and I'm holding the rest with the rest of my fingers. And then I'm going to take my needle, go underneath this one, underneath that one. Whoops. Sure I am. See, I'm totally new at this. Okay, we'll try this again. Go underneath this one, underneath that one, and in this one. And then I'm going to pull. And what happened? That's not right. Okay, there, that's right. And see how it gave you another knit stitch? That would make 2 knit stitches. So then I'm going to do this. I need a total of 36 of these. So I go under this one, through that. Pull. Under, through, pull. Under, through, pull. Under, and you can see how, I don't know why, but somehow mine gets away like that. So I just have to pull it back, through, pull. Under, through, pull. Under, through, pull. And you're going to do this a total of 36 times, and you can see how mine's all discombobulated right there. So what you need to do when you're finished with those is you just push them so that they're all at the front. Now, I can tell you already that I have been casting this on way, way, way too tightly. This should move freely. It should not be hard to move these up and down the needle. It should actually be pretty easy. If you catch it soon enough, you can kind of wiggle them a little bit and get it so that it's not so tight. And I'll teach you why that's important. And I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to show you guys a couple more. So I'm going under, under, and then through, and then pull. And then under, through, and then pull. And that's about as far as you need to pull. I was pulling it way too far, or way too tight. See, if I'm pulling it tight, it'll get like that. You don't need it to be tight. You don't want it to be tight. It actually is awful if it's tight, so don't make it tight. You have to think loosey-goosey, at least I do, because I am a very tight knitter. And so I have to really back off. And I think I showed some of that in the last video too, how it's so much looser than I expected it to be. So you just really just want it to be super loose and just make it super nice and easy. And it's really fun. I mean, I love casting on actually like this because I can do it. It's like, wow, I got this. And it's kind of neat and fun. As I say that, I like totally messed this one up. Oh well, it's okay. I saved it. So you can see how it's already looking like something. So this kind of knitting is harder for me because this is what I was talking about when you have to keep your rows or your stitches. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I have 16 stitches on here. So by the time, if I stopped here, by the time I'm finished with whatever project it is, I should still have 16 stitches. I have not been able to do that. I don't know why. I know it shouldn't be that hard, but it is impossible for me to keep the same number of stitches. I'm forever creating more stitches. I don't know how or why. I know that some of the reason was for a little bit that I was casting on too tightly, and then when I was trying to knit, I was totally screwing up and like picking up half of the yarn, and then so the other half would still be there and I'd do another stitch on it. So those are some mistakes that I have made. But once you've done this, you'll still have a working end which connects to your ball and a tail. And it doesn't matter how long your tail is, that's just the tail, and you just want to leave it alone and it's just going to float out by itself. Now when you're knitting, there are two stitches that are mostly used, the knit stitch and the purl stitch. So to do the knit stitch, what you do is you take your yarn in your left hand. This is the yarn, this is like all your stitches are sitting here. This is the working needle, at least in my opinion, because I'm right-handed. So I'm going to stick this one through here. And I kind of hold my tail back, I guess I do hold that. I'm going to stick, and then I hold my working yarn, and you'll figure out all of this, how to do your work, how to hold it. You'll figure out what works for you. It's still awkward for me and I haven't figured out exactly what I like to do, but I will hold this in my right hand. So you're working with your right needle and you're holding this in your right hand. And I just, to start over again, I'm sticking this right through into the loop that was on my very last stitch. And I'm just sticking it underneath it just like that. And then I'm going to take my working yarn and I'm going to go counterclockwise around that needle. So my working yarn is up here like this. I'm just taking it and looping it around. And then I'm going to take my needle, pull it back, but keeping this touching the other needle so as I know that I've got my stitch on here. So I want to keep it just next to the needle, and then I'm pulling it up. And then now you can see I have a stitch on here, and I'm going to take this stitch and I'm going to push it off. And so I'm going to get a little closer to my working side. I'm just going to push it off like that. So now I have a stitch on here, and then I have one less stitch on there. So I think I have 15 on here now. And you want to keep all of these little loops, you want to keep all of that to the same direction. You want to keep it toward the bottom. So you can see how loose this one is right now. I'm not going to tighten it up until I put it in here. And then when I put it in my second stitch, I'm going to go ahead and pull this just a little bit, but I'm not pulling it tight. You can see I'm not giving it a yank. I'm just simply pulling it so that it's not hanging down. I don't want it to be dangling, but I also don't want it to be tight at all. Knitting is very loose, so you just want to put it in there. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing a very good job of holding these right now. Like I said, I'm new to this too. So then I take this counterclockwise, hold it again in my hand. I'm going to take my index finger, kind of push this back, and then up through here where I'm catching my second loop, and then I'm going to take that off, and then I have my second loop on here and one less on that one. So let me just go ahead and kind of do it again to show you. It's kind of slow motion, pulling it up and then sliding it off. And then you'll get faster at this as you're doing it. And like this is just my work. This is just my tail. See how that's just my tail. So that's the reason you see that. But it's fine. You can totally see that. So this is called the knit stitch. You're doing this, you're knitting. You put this through, loop this around counterclockwise, pull this up and then take the stitch off. There you go. You are knitting. And I'm going to just do it so you'll see kind of how quickly I do it when I'm doing it. And when you have a few of these on here, it seems to be able to hold the needles a little bit better, and I can work a little bit faster. And sometimes I don't even have to look at this when I'm doing it anymore, which is kind of nice. I can just kind of feel where the stitch is, and then I can just pull it and go and be done. And that is knitting. That is all that it is. You're just looping the yarn around and taking one stitch off of the left side and putting it onto the right side, and then getting rid of the one on the left side. So let me just do that whole row so you'll see what it looks like here at the end. See right there, I'm not sure if I messed up, so I'm going to start that one again, because I'm like, wait a second, I feel like that's not right. Okay. All right, let's start that again. Put it through there. Do that. I must have, like, see, I promise you, I'm still a beginner. Separate those, stick it underneath. And I find that if I stick it, sometimes like the point of the needle, if I stick it down here where the knotty kind of thing is, it seems like there's a little more room. And this should not be hard to stick through. If you're finding that it's hard for you to get your needle through, you've made it way too tight. And trust me, that's what some of this mess is. My needle should not be this worn already. It's because I had no clue what I was doing. So there we go. We have knitted one row of 16, and you can see how it's that kind of little row there. And then what you would do is you would switch hands. Put this one in your left hand. Now the tail is kind of back here, and that's a little better place for it. But I still want this yarn to be in the front. But okay, here's a classic mistake that I was making a ton. See how if I have this down where it's supposed to be, it looks like one stitch, which it is. It's one stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Just how many we had the first time. Fabulous. That means so far so good. But look what happens if I move this up. Do you see that? Now it looks like I have 17 stitches because there's 2 there. I know for a fact I was doing that a million times before. So that is a very common mistake. Be sure that you're not doing that. You just have all of them down. All of these stitches are down. This one needs to be down. That loop might be a little bit loose and might be hanging out like that. That's okay. Just don't do it twice. Don't do the loop don't do the loop that's hanging off of the needle. You're going to want to knit the loop that's on the needle. So again, I would knit this one. Go right through there, pull this through, and then bring this up like that, and then push this one off. So just put your needle through, go around counterclockwise, push it off. And I will say that starting out, like holding these, it's harder than when you have a bunch of material already knitted. It's a little easier to hold the needles when you have more material to hold. When you're just holding the needles, it's a little bit hard and awkward in your hand, at least for me. So you can see how this is working. I'm just knitting and knitting and knitting. So one thing that I showed on the last video is that the opposite of a knit stitch is a purl stitch. And if you've heard anyone talk about knitting, you've heard knits and purls, maybe knit 2, purl 1, or whatever. And what that simply means is that you would knit 2 stitches, and then the next one you would purl, knit 2, purl 1. And so the purl is the opposite of a knit stitch. I'm going to do this whole row in knit stitches, and then I'm going to show you what the purl stitch looks like. And you're going to have to, I'm going to have to beg you for forgiveness because I stink at the purl stitch using these needles, especially when I am just starting. I mean, it's awful. So you'll have to forgive me, but I will show you what I know and how to do it. And I'll also show you what it's going to look like after you've knitted a few, and you'll see the pattern forming. So the last one, stick it in there, do this same thing. Doesn't matter if it's the last one or the first one, they all get treated the same. So now you can see you've got a little bit of some knitting going on there. That's all knitting. Now on the opposite of the knit stitch, so this is all knitted. I didn't do any purls on this. This is just a knitted scarf. So these are all knit stitches. And the opposite of a knit stitch is a purl stitch. So the other side of the knit stitch, these are all purl stitches. See how it looks different? So this is a purl stitch and this is a knit stitch. And you can get that both from the loom or from your knitting needles. Doesn't matter. The opposite of every knit stitch is a purl stitch. And the way that I know the difference when I'm looking at them, the knit stitches always look like little V's. Can you see how it's like a little V? It's made up of lots of different V's. The purl stitch is made up of little lines, and purl sounds like burr or purr. So I think a little scarf. So these stitches all have a little scarf over their necks. So that's why they all kind of look like that. Whereas the knit stitch looks like this. So knit and purl, burr, purl. And I don't remember who taught me that, but one of the videos on YouTube taught me that. So that's not my original thinking, but I do like it. It made sense to me, and that's what I use. So with that in mind, when you are knitting, when you are knitting, I was doing, these are all knit stitches and it's fine and dandy, but there's going to be a side that's a knit stitch and a side that's a purl stitch. And to be quite frank on this, I don't know which is which, and it doesn't matter right now. But to do the purl stitch, you're going to do the knit stitch, but you're going to do it backwards. So it's a little bit hard to think of, and sometimes it's harder to do maybe, but let me just show you what that means. So with the knit stitch, like you've seen, this, let me just show you the knit stitch again. You go in like this, you go around like this, and then you pull this back and up and go over. Perfect. Beautiful. Very nice. With the purl stitch, you have to go in the opposite way. So instead of going in under, you're going over, and you want it to be like this. So I'm going over my needle and I'm going to the inside as opposed to the outside. So I'm going over my needle like this, and I want this to be more toward the back instead of toward the front. And then once I have my needles like this, I'm going to take this and go the opposite way. Is that right? Now that I'm thinking about it, I hope that's right. I go this way. See, I told you I'm new at this. And then, oh gosh, I might be teaching you wrong. I'm not even going to teach you the purl stitch right now because I can't remember off the top of my head without looking, and I don't want to tell you all this wrong. But just trust me that the purl stitch is opposite the knit stitch. And I know that you have to go in like this, but now that I'm thinking about it, it might be like that. And then like this, and then like this, and then like that. And that is a purl stitch. I'm pretty sure that's how you do it, but I'm not going to show you because, like I said, I don't want to mess you guys up. So anyway, let's say I messed up and I need to take this off. If you take all of this off, you can sometimes catch another one and cast it back on. But honestly, if I was just this far in, I would just go ahead and pull it apart and watch how this easily pulls apart. It should have no problem doing so. And then you'll get to your slip knot where, again, you can just pop that out if you need to. So that is that. I mean, honestly, it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun to knit. And if you guys want me to teach you the purl stitch, I will. But I'm sorry I can't teach you right now just because I am not comfortable with it myself yet to teach it. But I will get there. So I think that the next lesson, if I do another one, will be how to read a pattern And then I will probably not do another session for a while, just until I learn some more things. But I wanted to kind of teach you guys what I know so that you guys can maybe have as much fun as I have. I'm loving to knit, and I'm just really enjoying it. So I hope that you guys do too. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.